Hi everyone, happy Tuesday. Today we are continuing our theme of outer space and we'll be learning about the different phases of the moon. So every day when you look up at the night sky, you'll see the moon, but the moon looks a little bit different every single day. And today we'll be working with Oreo cookies to show the different phases that the moon goes through. But let's think about yesterday and what we learned yesterday. Yesterday was our virtual field trip, and I even posted the PowerPoint so you were able to watch the video on your own about the ISS, the International Space Station, and how they survive in outer space. So I thought that was very interesting. I thought it was also a good idea every day this week to go back to our bubble map and to add more terms that have to do with outer space. So yesterday, for outer space, I wrote astronaut because astronauts remind me of outer space, stars, meteors, a moon, darkness, and gravity. Those are all words that describe outer space. And after yesterday's virtual field trip, I would like to add another term, and I'm going to put a star next to it so I can note that it's added. We added it to our bubble map. And the next term I would like to add is ISS, or International Space Station. ISS. In parentheses, I'll write International Space Station. And we are going to close it in a bubble. And I'm going to put a star next to it. So I know that that's in addition to our bubble map. And after today's lesson about the different moon phases, we'll be able to add even more. And by the end of this week, I hope the entire anchor chart paper is filled with new terms. Like I said yesterday, feel more than welcome to message me a new term that I can add to our chart. Something you learned, a new term that you learned that goes along with our outer space theme. I would love to take your words and my new words as well. So please message me. Today we're learning about moon phases, and I'm going to start off by reading only 2 pages of a book. And the reason why I'm only going to read about 2 pages of a book is because the whole book is about a moon, or the moon, but I want to focus just on the moon phases today because I want us to be able to use Oreo cookies, and you might have seen this online before or you might have even done it in class before, but it's one of my favorite activities because you get to eat the Oreos at the end, and I love Oreos. So I hope you join me in making the moon phases, and like I said, I'll be reading only a few pages of the book, and then we'll be able to do the Oreo cookie activity. If you don't have Oreo cookies at home, don't worry about it. You can follow along with me, or sometimes you have cookies that are not called Oreos, but they have the cream inside. Those will work too. Or you can always draw. You can always draw, color, whatever you have at home will work. I just think it's so fun using actual cookies because you can obviously eat them at the end. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed yesterday's lesson and today's. Stay tuned. Hi everyone, so I'm just taking 2 or 3 pages from this book called The Moon Book by Gail Gibbons. And this book is all about the moon, but today I want to focus on the moon phases. So we're going to start with page 12, and I'm just going to read about the different phases of the moon so we can get started on our Oreo moon activity. The moon appears to change shape, but it doesn't. The different shapes we see are called phases of the moon. We are seeing different amounts of light being reflected on the moon. How much light we see depends on the positions of Earth, moon, and sun. Phases of the moon. In the first column, we see a new moon, and it looks completely black. I don't see the moon I barely see the moon at all. During a new moon, the moon is almost directly between the sun and the earth. The moon looks dark. We see no reflected light. Next is the crescent moon. The moon is waxing when the lit surface we see is getting bigger. In a few days, a bit of the sunlit side of the moon shows. It forms a crescent, and that's why it's called a crescent moon. And then we reach our first quarter moon. When the moon is a quarter of its way around Earth, it is in its first quarter phase. We see it as half lit. It is sometimes called a half moon. Now we have a gibbous moon. When the moon is waxing between a first quarter moon and a full moon, it is called a gibbous moon. Next is a full moon. About 2 weeks have passed since the new moon. Now the entire face of the moon we see shines. Gibbous moon. The moon is waning when the lit surface we see is getting smaller. When the moon is waning between a full moon and a last quarter moon, it is a gibbous moon once again. So to tell the difference between a gibbous moon and the other gibbous moon, we are going to call one a waxing gibbous and a waning gibbous. Then we have a last quarter moon. When the moon is 3/4 of its way around Earth, it is in its last quarter phase. Again, we see it as half lit. It is sometimes called a half moon, or sometimes it's even called a third quarter moon. Once again, we see a small sliver of moon shining in the sky. Lastly, it takes the moon about 1 month to go through its entire set of phases. People used to know the time of the month by watching the moon's phases. So if you pay attention to the Earth's phases every day, you can tell when a month passes because it takes the moon about 1 month to go through its entire set. So you would see a new moon in the beginning of the month where it's completely dark, and then the end of a month or the beginning of a new month. So interesting. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but we can recreate these moons using Oreo cookies. We're going to need Oreos, a plate, some markers, and forks to scrape the cream off the Oreos. So it's really good news if you have these supplies. But if not, you can always draw these moons on a plate to show the moon's different phases. Stay tuned. Hi everyone, so I have my moon phases behind me, but right now we're going to be focusing on taking the Oreos and making them to look like the different moon phases. Okay, so right now you need a plate, a regular plate at home, just so your Oreos don't get all over a table or a floor. You need a fork so you're able to carve the Oreos, and as you can see in the picture in the background right now, you will need to move the filling around. I personally like having a toothpick on hand for this activity. That way I can get really precise and really close to what the moon phase actually looks like. You don't need a toothpick, just a fork, a plate or a paper towel, and Oreos or something with cream in the middle that can look like the moon phases. So we're going to start off with the new moon. And the new moon is the phase that looks completely dark. So obviously you can see there's a lot of cream left over. So you can take your fork and kind of scrape it off. You're not going to get all the cream off, but you're going to get enough to the point where you know that that phase is your new moon phase. Okay, I'm going to take my plate with my moon phases and put the new moon phase Oreo next to my labeled new moon. And since the Oreo is going to fall, if I keep it like this, I'm going to put it flat next to me. And then at the end, I'll show you the final product. So next is and I'm looking at my plate, is the waxing crescent. And you can see that kind of looks like a toenail. It kind of looks like a backward C. So I'm going to take the other half of my Oreo and create that. So I'm going to kind of carve it. I know students love this part, carving out the cream. And I just put the cream on the plate. I'll eat it later. So right now I have this, but this is where I like using the toothpick to kind of curve it to make it more curved and detailed. I scrape off the excess cream, and I have my waxing crescent. I'm going to put that next to waxing crescent. So far, you have a new moon, a waxing crescent, and now we have the first quarter, or half moon. So take your next Oreo, and you are going to show the first quarter by splitting it in half and removing half the cream. Okay. Again, it's not going to be perfect. You can try the very best you can. I can see already I messed up just a little bit, so I'm just fixing it as best as I can. This activity does get messy. And there is my first quarter. You can see at the bottom I messed up a little bit, so I just put more cream at the bottom. And to make it more precise, I'll scrape off some of the cream. And there you have your first quarter. Putting that next to first quarter. Next, we have our waxing gibbous. And if you see in the picture in the background, that's a more than halfway. So I'm going to take a new Oreo, split it, and now I'm going to carve, and I'm only taking out a little bit. There's more than half of the Oreo that's covered. I'm going to carve it to make it curvier. There you have it. Put that next to waxing gibbous. Make sure it's facing the correct way. And next we have our full, which is super easy. Take an Oreo, split it, and that's it. You don't have to carve anything. That's our full. Next is the waning gibbous. So take another Oreo, open it, and you're only going to carve out a little bit. Just like that. Put it next to waning gibbous. And then we have our third quarter, which again is also considered a half moon. So you're going to take half of it, kind of remove it just like that. That one's probably the easiest. You put the fork in the middle and kind of just take it off. And then lastly is our waning crescent. So that again looks like our toenail. I know that's kind of gross to think about, but it's the best way to have a visual. So you just want a little bit. So you remove most of it. I literally just scrape the cream off. And there, I think that's actually perfect. Okay, so after you have completed all of those steps, you should have 8 total Oreos going around in a circle, and you have the arrows pointing. I know the plate in the background doesn't have the the arrows pointing, but I did that on my plate. So you should do that on yours as well, so you know the order in which the moon is going through. What I like to do at the end is eat the Oreos. It's my favorite cookie. It's my favorite activity, but we're not done yet. I'm going to show you my final product, and I'm going to show you what you can do with the plate.
Hi everyone. So as you can see, I actually
took my plate and I realized that there wasn't enough room and I should have wrote on the perimeter on the outside. So I just took what I had on my plate and I put it on a circle piece of paper. I just cut it into a circle, and something you can do is draw an earth in the middle, and you can watch as it goes from a new moon to a waxing crescent to a first quarter moon, a waxing gibbous, a full moon, a waning gibbous, and a third quarter moon to a waning crescent. And that whole process takes about 1 month. So obviously, if you don't have the plates at home, you can easily put this on a piece of paper. You can even draw the moon if you don't have Oreos. I know I'm really excited to eat these now that I'm done and that you've seen my final product. If you did this at home, please send me the picture at ktroia@lakewoodpiners.org. Again, that's KTROIA @lakewoodpiners.org, and I will post it to our Google Classroom. I am so excited to see all of your final products, and I'm excited to post them. I hope you enjoyed this activity, and I hope you enjoy eating the Oreo cookies at the end. Okay, have a great Tuesday.